What is the difference between a promise and a callback function?
Callback function is like basically whenever we are doing a synchronous call, like suppose I'm fetching some data asynchronously from the server, then I can write a callback function and to handle the data. Promise is like promise, we can also use synchronous calls, but it will be callback function will be called only once we have the data in the promise, but not in the callback functions callback. So we might if we have a dependency of one callback to other, we might run into a callback hell, and we not sure where we are stuck into. But in promise chaining we can override that, because we are calling the callback only once we have the data, and also we can return the promise and we can do promise chaining.
Okay. Then how does dot then method differ from async or await handling promises?
Yeah, like async await is like same as a promise. Basically, suppose if I have a promise, I can do dot then, and I can get the data like in the callback. And async await is like basically async will create a promise. When we do await, it will resolve the promise. I don't have to do dot then in the async await. By await I can resolve the promise.
Okay. Then what will happen if you await a non-promise value?
If I'm it will resolve immediately once the function is called.
Okay. Okay. Can you explain the event loop, how it is working in the JavaScript
Yeah,
with respect to promises and microtasks especially?
yeah, sure. Like JavaScript is a single-threaded synchronous language. So whenever we are writing a function, it create a callback. It will create a execution context, and whatever there in the execution context will be resolved actually. So suppose if we have a synchronous calls, suppose we have a set timeout function, and this set timeout function will be like once the timer is done, then the callback function will be called. In this type of asynchronous call, we have a callback queue concept, where once this callback functions are placed in a callback queues, so we have a event loop which will monitor this call stack and callback queues. So when there is nothing in the callback in the call stack, event loop, once the timer is done, event loop will move the callback function to the um, call stack, and it will execute it. Suppose I have a API calls, it is also asynchronous, but this will be these callback functions are put it in a microtask queues basically. And similarly, event loop will monitor, and if there is nothing in the execute call stack, it will push this callback function from microtask queues, and it will execute it. This callbacks in the microtask queue have a higher precision compared to the callback queues.
So which is the highest priority?
Microtask queues has a highest priority.
Okay. Promises comes under
Yeah, microtask queues.
microtask. Okay. Angular, basically, how will you manage data communication?
Basically, data communication. If I have a like parent to child, if I want to send a data, then I can use a input property decorators. And if I want to send a data from child to parent, then we can use a output property decorator, and we can emit an event from child to parent. If I have a sibling components, then we can create a services, shared services, and we can share the data. Also, to multicast the data, we can use subjects or behavior subject. These are observable and observer. We can detect a change, and we can emit a change, and we can listen this change in a different component. Currently we are using NgRx store to handle the state in our application. Basically we have a state object which are immutable, and we have actions and reducers. Basically on a click of a button I can dispatch an actions and we have these reducers. These are pure functions. Basically, on a dispatch of some action, it will take a state and it will create a new updated state. And we have the selectors. We can from there we can fetch a data from the store. This returns as a observable. And we have effects where we can make a API calls. Basically, it's a injectable services. We can initialize the action list in the constructor, and we can listen to the particular action. Suppose login action is clicked, then login effect will be called, and we can do a login API call, and depending on the login success or error, we can again call a login success action, which will update the log, which will have a login success reducers.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, it's some more. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. No worries. What is tree-shakeable DA? How does it help?
Yeah, like basically, if I'm building my Angular application, I'm bundling it. When I'm building for a prod, I want to make the build size as low as possible, so it can render the application faster in the environment, production environment. So suppose by using the tree shaking concept, we can remove the unused imports or unused functions or methods which are not used in our application, so which will make our application performance enhancement. Suppose we have a services where we have two ways to create a service. Basically, we can do at injectable provided in root, and also we can provide the services in the providers of a module level. So if I'm providing it in the module all the level, those services will not be tree shakeable.
Got it. Okay. Can you elaborate more about the behavior subject and subject? The
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, both are used for multicasting of a data, and both are observable and observer. We can detect a change in one component, and we can emit a change in other component by doing dot next, and it's as observable. We can subscribe to it. In the subject, we will not pass a initial data. Behavior subject, we can send a initial data to the behavior subject, and behavior subject will give me the latest emitted value from the behavior subject. That is the difference to subject and behavior subject. We also have a reply subject where we can catch a specific number of emission.
Okay. Have you used Angular signals?
No, currently I have not used Angular signals. I know the concepts, like it's a kind of updated behavior subjects where we can use with NgRx store.
Will signals track your changes automatically, or do you need to update it
Yeah, it will track our changes automatically.
automatically? Okay.
I have not used the Angular signals actually. Sorry for that.
Okay. No worries. What are those change detection strategies?
Yeah, by default, like change detection strategies, like if there is any change detection is in, like any changes in the current and previous state, Angular will update the view. So by default, every change Angular is updating the view, and it's a dirty check. Basically, it is hampering our Angular application performance. We can use on push change detection strategy, where change detection will be called for input property changes or output emissions, sync pipes, all those only it will be called. Also, we can use initialize the change detection ref and do mark for check and detect for check, and we can explicitly call the change detection to update the view. And we have a ng zone, which will zone JS basically triggers the change detection, and whenever there is a change in a DOM tree. So ng zone, by using ng zone, we have two methods, and run outside the Angular zone. So we can run outside the Angular zone for API calls which we are not updating the view, so we can enhance the performance.
Have you used change detector in your project?
Yeah, we have used change detection in our application.
Can you give an example in which place scenario you have needed that?
Basically, we have used many places this ng zone run outside the Angular zone to call APIs, and which will not do a change detection. And we have used the change detection where we don't want to uh, uh, update the view every place. Like suppose if I'm using impure pipes, basically those will update the views and it will make a dirty check. We can use their on push change detection strategy.
Okay. What is HTTP interceptor?
Basically it's a injectable service. We can intercept the request and response going through our application. Basically it has an intercept. We have to like basically we have used HTTP interceptors to add HTTP headers to all the API calls. We have to implement a HTTP interceptor interface, and it has an intercept method where it takes a request and next. And we can create a clone of a request, and we can modify the request where, and we can add headers. And then we can by next we can send the same modified request. Basically we can add up. So for our authorization, we have this HTTP headers where we want to send this to every API calls. There we can make use of HTTP interceptors.
Do you think we still need lazy loading concept in the latest version?
We can use standalone components also, like
What it has?
which it will not have the boilerplate for all the modules. We can what we but we
So what do you prefer?
yeah, like standalone components currently we put it.
Okay. Can you name some of the common Angular lifecycle hooks you have used in your project?
Yeah, like we have used ng on changes. This lifecycle hook will be called on every changes in the input properties. And ng do check, this lifecycle hook will be called for every change detection. It's basically called on every change. And ng on it, this will be called after constructor. This will be called on initialization of a component. This will be called only once. Then we have ng after view unit. This will be called only once after view is initialized. And we have ng on destroy lifecycle hook. So basically this will be called whenever we are moving away from a component. Suppose we have subscriptions, we can unsubscribe those subscriptions in ng on destroy lifecycle hook whenever we are trying to go away from a component.
Yeah, so can you tell me like some optimization techniques that you have worked on, or you think that should be implemented in any Angular application that could improve our performance?
Like we can optimize our application, Angular application, by doing code splitting. Like we have to reduce the initial load of a bundle size. Like when we run our application with Lighthouse or some other performance monitoring tool, it gives us all the web vitals, like what is the first contentful paint and what is the large contentful paint. So first initial build size should be less than 400 KB. So
So how do you make sure that it is less than that?
first is like we can load only the modules whatever necessary on a load of application. The other modules we can load them on demand by lazy loading, by creating lazy loading modules and using path and load children. We can load the modules lazily.
No, but what if you are by lazy loading you can't reduce the size, correct?
Yeah, we can reduce the bundle
But
size.
what if the inside component we have written such kind of code that it reduces the bundle size. So in that sense, I'm talking about how can you optimize.
We minify.
So this code splitting I understood, and the bundle size I understood, and that is correct for sure. Apart from this, are there any other ways while you write the code, or some things you can implement, some features you can use?
Yeah, like if I have whenever I'm loading a script, I can use async and defer. Basically, HTML parsing. Whenever HTML parsing happen, whenever it encounter script, it try to download and execute it. So if I'm trying to add a sync, then it will download the script parallelly, and it will execute it later.
But in Angular, do we need to use async and defer? We do have a separate template file, a separate TS file. We already have a zone to handle
Yeah, we can
this
use
detection and
change
all.
detection strategies by default. We have default change detection strategy. So whenever there is a change in DOM tree, current and previous state, it will update the view and it will cause a dirty check. So to enhance this, we can use on push change detection strategy, where only Angular will update the view for specific things like input changes, and async pipe changes. Also, explicitly we can call chain direction ref and do mark for check. And ng zone gives us two methods where we can run outside the Angular zone. So we can call the APIs which we don't want to update the UI. Those we can call in run outside Angular zone. Also, we can
Apart from this.
try avoiding impure pipes, which will again cause dirty checking. And whenever we have a subscription in our component, we can try unsubscribing those subscriptions for a memory leak in the ng on destroy lifecycle loop.
Mhm. Anything else that can be done? So let's say in this on push scenario, let's say that there is a parent and child component. Okay. So in parent, when if anything happens in parent, so if I'm using on push or if I'm not using on push, so let's say that I'm clicking a button on my parent. So how will this parent and child behave in both the cases?
Yeah, if I'm not using on push change, on push change direction strategy, due to event capturing, whenever we click on button on parent, child button also will be clicked. Child element also will be clicked due to the event propagation. So when we try adding this on push chain detection strategy, unnecessary elements click will be not done.
Okay, so just a second. So let's say there is an API call in my child component, and if you have already used on push, so that API call we have subscribed to it, okay, and we are storing in that some, let's say, user data variable, and that should be iterated and rendered on template HTML. So if you are already using on push, so can you tell me how will this impact whether we will get the latest data or not?
Yeah, we will, to get the latest data, we can use this chain detection dot mark for check after subscribing to the data.
Okay. Correct. So for unsubscription, so let's say that there is a component, user component, and there are multiple subscriptions you have made, and now you want to unsubscribe it. So what are the ways that you can do that?
One is we can put in in our project we have created a destroy subject, and we with a take until operator, whenever it emits any value, this destroy, it will unsubscribe all the subscription in ng on destroy lifecycle loop. And one second way is we can put all this in one array of subscription, and we can do a for loop and unsubscribe it. And
can you tell me what is the difference between SwitchMap and exhaustMap, and when should we use both?
SwitchMap,
I mean, both means individually when to prefer switch or exhaustMap.
Okay, like in our application we have like recently created on search box, like on a click of whenever user inputs a key events, like we will call a API and show the data. Like in that we have used SwitchMap. It will also we have used few other RxJS operators, debounce time and distinct until changed. Basically, debounce time will give a user buffer on last two key, difference between last two key pressed events, and distinct until check for same.
No. Just tell me about
Okay,
SwitchMap and
so yeah,
exhaustMap.
switch map is like basically it cancels the previous subscription and it gives us the latest result in our result. And exhaust map is like suppose I have a button and I'm on a click of a button I'm calling a API, and if I'm calling multiple times on that button, so exhaust map will cancel all the later calls until that inner observable is completed.
So, okay, by canceling, like what do you mean by
It will
canceling
not
your
make a
observer?
call to the API.
Okay,
We can ignore those calls.
okay. So, there are, let's say that there is a module, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a service.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the service file,
Mm-hmm.
there is some API that you want to call in your module,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So, that service you are again trying to add in your providers of this module
Mm-hmm.
and in the app module.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It is in both
Mm-hmm.
providers array. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So and there is one value. Let's say that it is trying to modify some name
Mm-hmm.
service.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me like what problem could arise here, or is it just fine? We can do that.
Like if I'm defining different providers array, it might be giving a different instance of a data. It's not a singleton. Maybe if we're
Mm-hmm.
updating the value, but that is not being provided to the other instance of the service where we are using in the component.
Hmm. Okay, correct.
The semantics element in HTML.
We have in HTML5 semantic elements are introduced, like we have header, nav, aside, footer. All those tells the browser that this is the header, this is the footer. Basically it helps for a search engine optimization, also accessibility. It improves the accessibility of the page.
Okay. What is pseudo element and pseudo classes in CSS?
Pseudo elements are like we have this before and after pseudo elements, where these elements can be placed before the content, before and after the content. And pseudo classes are like we have hover, focus. Like on hover of an element we can, what CSS property we need to apply, we can add in using pseudo classes with hover and focus, active, and many.
Okay. Okay. What is deep copy and shallow copy?
Like deep shallow copy is like when we copy an object, only top level object will be copied by values and other nested object will be copied by reference. Like we can use spread and object dot assign. Nested object will, if I change the nested object, the then when if the original copy also will be changed. But in the deep copy it is all like it is a complete deep copy of object. We can do json dot parse and json dot stringify you can use, and we can deep clone object. Also we
Okay.
have low dash deep clone.
So let's suppose there is a header component and footer component. Okay. So in header component there is a one input field.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever we are typing in that input field, that we need to show in the footer component.
Mm-hmm.
How you will implement that? So basically there is no relation between the header component and the footer component.
Basically we can create subjects in the services. Basically subjects are observable and observer, we can detect a change and we can emit a change. So I'll create a input subject, and whenever I type in a header component, I will do dot next and I will emit those values, and these are as observable. I can subscribe to those values in the footer component.
Okay. Cool. Nice.